We have a serious problem. What is it? What's happening? The landing gear, it's not deploying. The warning lights are on. We have to brace for impact. Oh my God!
Listen to me. We're in danger. You have to come with us.
Danger! What are you talking about?
There's no time to explain. We have to go. Now, get up. We need to move to the back.
Okay.
Get your black ass off this plane before I slap the ghetto out of you. Ma'am, I am the passenger booked for this. Passenger? You? On a $60 million jet? What did you do? Steal someone's booking code? Or did you sleep your way onto the manifest? I just want to sit down, please. Sit down where? You stink. I can smell poverty on you from the doorway. Now get off before I drag you off myself. This is my jet. And then the flight attendant slapped her across the face. The black woman did not scream. She did not swing back. She just pressed her hand against her burning cheek and sat there in silence. What happened the next morning made national news, and it cost that airline everything. She really just did that to the wrong person. Let us get into it. Let me take you back to the beginning. It was early in the morning in Alexandria, Virginia. The kind of early where the sky had not decided if it was night or day yet. Streetlights were still buzzing. Dew sat on every car windshield in the neighborhood. Inside a brownstone townhouse, a woman sat alone at her kitchen counter. No makeup, eyes heavy, hair tied back in a low ponytail that she had not bothered to fix since yesterday. She was wearing a gray cashmere hoodie and joggers. A cup of black coffee sat next to her elbow, barely touched, already going cold. Her name was Serena Hayes. She was reading emails on her phone, scrolling slowly with her thumb, not really absorbing anything. She had been in Washington, D.C. all week. Straight days of meetings, conference calls, contract negotiations, dinners with people she did not like, and handshakes that left her palms sore. She was tired in that deep way that sleep alone cannot fix. Her phone buzzed. She picked up without looking. "Morning, Miss Hayes. Just confirming the jet is fueled and ready at Dallas. Wheels up at the scheduled time." That was Cameron Reed, her executive assistant. 30 years old, sharp, loyal, the kind of person who remembered everything so she did not have to. "Thanks, Cameron. I will be there by the scheduled time. Do you need me to ride with you to Savannah?" "No, I just want to sit on that plane alone and not talk to anybody for a few hours. That is all I need." Cameron laughed softly. "Understood. I will have the car waiting at the Savannah terminal." She hung up, took a sip of her cold coffee, made a face, poured it out in the sink. "This is important. Remember what Serena looks like right now. No blazer, no heels, no diamond earrings, no designer bag with initials stamped on it. Just a tired woman in a hoodie heading to the airport. She looked like anyone. She looked like nobody. And that is exactly the problem, because there are people in this world who decide what you are worth the second they see your face. Before you open your mouth, before you show your credentials, before you do anything at all, they look at your skin, they look at your clothes, and they make a decision. Lorraine Baxter was one of those people. Now let me tell you about Lorraine, 54 years old, senior lead flight attendant for Skyvault Aviation's private charter division. 22 years with the company. Blonde hair always pulled into a tight bun, not a strand loose. The uniform pressed so sharp you could cut paper with the creases. Smile that clicked on and off like a light switch. She had been reassigned to Serena's jet just a couple of weeks ago. New rotation. She had never met the owner. All she knew from the manifest was one name, Miss Hayes, and a departure time. That morning, Lorraine arrived at the Dallas private terminal early as always. She walked through the jet doing her pre-flight check, adjusting pillows, lining up water bottles so the labels faced forward, folding the cashmere blanket on the main seat into a perfect rectangle. She took pride in this. She believed she was the best at what she did. And in her mind, the best clients, the ones who deserved that level of service, looked a certain way. When the ground crew technician, a young black man, brought the service paperwork to the jet stairs, Lorraine took the clipboard without looking at him, did not say thank you, did not acknowledge his existence, just waved her hand for him to go away. A short while later, Captain Victor Lang climbed aboard. White, mid-50s, graying temples. Lorraine lit up like a Christmas tree. "Good morning, Captain. Coffee is ready for you. 2 sugars, a splash of cream, just how you like it." Victor nodded, took the cup, and disappeared into the cockpit. Behind Lorraine stood Lila Evans, junior flight attendant, late 20s, quiet. She had been paired with Lorraine for a few weeks now, and in that time, she had learned one thing clearly. Lorraine had 2 modes, warm and welcoming for some, cold and suspicious for others, and the dividing line was not about manners or money, it was about color. A black sedan pulled up on the tarmac. The rear door opened. Out stepped a woman in a gray hoodie and jeans carrying one leather laptop bag over her shoulder. Serena walked toward the jet stairs, squinting slightly against the early morning sun. At the top of those stairs, Lorraine Baxter looked down at her and decided who she was before she took a single step. Serena climbed the stairs slowly. Her knees ached from sitting in conference rooms all week. Her laptop bag hung off one shoulder. She reached the top step and looked up. Lorraine was standing in the doorway, not to the side, in the middle, blocking the entrance with her body like a velvet rope at a nightclub. "Can I help you?" Lorraine said. "Not welcome aboard, not good morning, just, can I help you?" The same tone you would use with someone who wandered into the wrong building. "I am Miss Hayes," Serena said. "I am booked on this flight." Lorraine did not move. Her eyes traveled down Serena's body, the hoodie, the jeans, the plain white sneakers, then back up to her face. Something shifted behind her smile. It did not disappear, but it hardened like wet cement setting. "Miss Hayes," Lorraine repeated slowly, like she was tasting something sour. "Do you have identification?" "I have my booking confirmation. I need to see a photo ID." Serena paused. She had flown on her own jet dozens of times. No one had ever asked her for a photo ID at the door. This was not a commercial flight. There was no TSA checkpoint. The manifest had one name on it, and it was hers. But she was tired. She did not want a confrontation. She pulled out her phone, opened her email, and showed the confirmation screen. Her name, the tail number, the date. Lorraine looked at the phone, looked at Serena, looked at the phone again. "This could be anyone's phone," she said. "It is my phone with my name on my booking." Lorraine held the stare for several seconds. Then she stepped aside, barely. Serena had to turn sideways to squeeze past her. Their shoulders touched, and Lorraine pulled back like she had brushed against something dirty. Serena walked into the cabin. The jet was beautiful. Cream leather seats, warm wood paneling, soft recessed lighting that made everything glow. A cashmere blanket was folded neatly on the forward seat. The main seat, her seat. A small vase of fresh white roses sat on the side table. A chilled bottle of sparkling water was waiting, label facing forward. Serena set her bag down and lowered herself into the forward seat. "Excuse me." She looked up. Lorraine was standing over her, arms folded. "That seat is reserved." "Reserved for who?" "For the client." "I am the client." Lorraine's lips pressed into a thin line. "I was told the owner might be sending a representative today. I think there might be some confusion about seating. The rear cabin is very comfortable. You would have more privacy back there." There was no rear representative. There was no confusion. The manifest said one passenger, Miss Hayes, and Serena was sitting in the seat that had been prepared for exactly that person. But Lorraine could not accept it, could not process it. Her brain had already sorted Serena into a category, and that category did not include owning a $60 million jet. "I am fine right here," Serena said quietly. Lorraine did not respond. She turned and walked toward the galley. Her heels clicked hard against the cabin floor, each step louder than necessary, like small punishments against the ground. The jet pushed back from the terminal, engines spooled up with a low whine that vibrated through the cabin walls. They taxied to the runway. The morning sun cut through the oval windows in long golden bars, falling across the empty seats. Serena leaned her head back and closed her eyes. Maybe she could sleep. Maybe this flight would be uneventful. Maybe the woman with the frozen smile would leave her alone. She was wrong about all three. A short while after takeoff, Captain Victor Lang's voice came through the cabin speaker. Smooth, professional. Cruising altitude, clear skies, estimated arrival in Savannah in a couple of hours. Serena opened her laptop, started reviewing emails she had been too tired to read that morning. Contracts, proposals, status reports. The screen light reflected off her face in the dim cabin. From the galley, she could hear the clink of glass and china. Lorraine emerged carrying a tray, a porcelain cup of coffee, a warm croissant wrapped in linen, a small glass bowl of mixed berries, and a hot towel rolled into a perfect cylinder. Steam curled up from the towel like a thin white ribbon. Lorraine walked right past Serena without a glance. She carried the tray to the cockpit door, knocked softly, and handed it to Captain Victor with a smile so wide it could have been in a toothpaste commercial. "Here you go, Captain. Fresh and hot. Let me know if you need anything at all." She walked back through the cabin, past Serena again, eyes forward, like the seat was empty, like the woman sitting in it did not exist. The scent of warm butter from the croissant trailed behind her, hanging in the air just long enough for Serena to notice. Serena said nothing. She watched Lorraine pass and returned to her laptop. Sometime later, she pressed the call button. The chime sounded, a soft, clear tone. A small amber light above her seat turned on. Lorraine was in the galley, close enough to hear the chime clearly. She looked up at the light, then looked back down at her magazine, turned the page, crossed her legs, took a slow sip of her own water. Serena waited. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3. The light stayed on. Lorraine did not move. Several minutes passed. Serena did not press it again. She just sat there with her hands folded on the armrest, watching, patient in a way that most people cannot manage when they are being deliberately ignored. Eventually, Leela appeared from the rear galley. She saw the call light glowing amber, saw Lorraine sitting beneath it reading a magazine, and hesitated. Her eyes darted between the light and Lorraine's back. Her fingers fidgeted with the hem of her apron. Then Lila walked over to Serena. "I am sorry about the wait, ma'am. Can I get you something? Just a coffee, please." "Black?" "Of course, right away." Leela hurried to the galley. Lorraine looked up from her magazine as Lila reached for the coffee pot. The magazine folded shut with a crisp snap. "What are you doing?" Lorraine asked. "She pressed the call button several minutes ago. I will decide when passengers get served on my aircraft, not you." Lila froze. Her hand hovered over the coffee cup. She could feel Lorraine's stare on the side of her face like heat from an open flame. "She asked for a coffee, Lorraine. That is all." "I know what she asked for." Lorraine leaned in close. Her voice dropped to a whisper, but the kind of whisper that is designed to travel, the kind that wants to be overheard. "That woman does not belong on this plane. I do not know who she called or whose name she borrowed, but I have been doing this for 22 years, and I know exactly what our clients look like. She is not one of them, not even close." Leela said nothing. She poured the coffee with unsteady hands, placed it on a saucer, and brought it to Serena. The cup rattled faintly against the porcelain as she set it down. "Here you go, ma'am. I'm sorry for the delay." Serena looked at Lila, saw the red flush creeping up from her collar to her jawline, saw the way her eyes were saying something her mouth could not form into words, saw a young woman caught between knowing what was right and fearing what it would cost her. "Thank you," Serena said softly. Lila nodded once, quickly, and walked away fast, like she was afraid of being caught showing kindness to the wrong person. Serena picked up the coffee. It was lukewarm. She drank it anyway. The bitter taste sat on her tongue as she set the cup back down. Then she pulled out her phone, opened the voice memo app, pressed the red circle, and slipped the phone into her hoodie pocket, screen facing inward. The recording indicator blinked once and disappeared beneath the fabric. No one saw it. No one heard it. But from that moment on, Every word spoken in that cabin was being captured. A while later, Lorraine walked through the cabin doing what she called a routine check. She straightened a pillow that did not need straightening, adjusted a window shade that was already down. Then she stopped at Serena's row. She stood there, looking down at Serena's laptop screen, spreadsheets, company logos, dense paragraphs of legal language, numbers with many zeros. Lorraine let out a small laugh. Not a real laugh, just a sharp puff of air through her nose, the sound of someone who finds you ridiculous. She turned to Lila, who was folding napkins in the rear galley, and said, just loud enough for the words to float back through the cabin like smoke, "Playing businesswoman today? Probably Googling what a spreadsheet even means." Serena's fingers stopped on the keyboard. Her jaw tightened. She breathed out slowly through her nose. Then she kept typing, steady, controlled. Every keystroke was deliberate. In her hoodie pocket, the red light kept blinking. The phone heard everything. Things got worse as the flight continued. Serena had been quiet the entire time, had not complained, had not raised her voice, had not pressed the call button again after the first time it was ignored. She just sat in her seat, worked on her laptop, and minded her own business. That should have been the end of it. A rude flight attendant, a bad experience, something to report later and move on from. But Lorraine was not finished. See, people like Lorraine do not stop when they are ignored. Silence does not satisfy them. They need a reaction. They need submission. They need the person they have decided is beneath them to confirm it, to shrink, to leave, to break. And Serena had not done any of those things, so Lorraine came back. She appeared at Serena's row holding a clipboard. She stood in the aisle with one hand on her hip, the other tapping the clipboard against her thigh. "Ma'am, I need to conduct a security inspection of your carry-on luggage." Serena looked up from her laptop. "Excuse me?" "Security protocol. For unverified passengers, we are required to inspect all personal belongings before landing." Serena closed her laptop slowly, set it on the seat beside her. "There is no such protocol on a private charter," she said. "I have flown private for years. No one has ever searched my bag. Well, this is my aircraft, and I am responsible for safety on board. I need to see inside your bag." "No." The word was quiet, simple, complete. Lorraine's nostrils flared, just slightly, like a horse that has been tugged back by the reins and does not like it. "Ma'am, if you refuse to cooperate with a safety inspection, I will have to notify the captain and request an emergency diversion. You will be met by airport security on the ground. Is that what you want?" Serena looked at Lorraine, studying her face the way you study a document with errors in it, carefully, thoroughly, without emotion. "Go ahead. Call the captain." Lorraine did not call the captain. Instead, she reached up to the overhead bin above Serena's seat. Her fingers found the latch. She pulled it open and grabbed the handle of Serena's leather laptop bag, the only piece of luggage she had brought. "Do not touch my belongings," Serena said. Lorraine pulled the bag halfway out of the bin. I said, "Do not touch my bag." Lorraine did not stop. She yanked the bag fully out of the bin and held it against her chest. The zipper jingled. A pen rolled out of the side pocket and bounced off the cabin floor with a tiny plastic click. Serena stood up. In the narrow aisle of the Gulfstream, there was barely room for one person to stand comfortably. Now there were two, face to face, close enough to feel each other's breath. Serena was taller than Lorraine by a couple of inches. She looked down at her with calm, dark eyes. "Put my bag back. Now." Lorraine did not put the bag back. She held it tighter. Her knuckles whitened around the leather strap. Her chin lifted. That smile, the one she wore like armor, was gone. In its place was something raw and honest. Contempt. Pure, unfiltered contempt. "You do not give me orders," Lorraine hissed. "Not on this plane. Not anywhere. I am asking you one more time. Put my bag down." Lorraine stepped closer. Their faces were inches apart now, close enough that Serena could see the caked foundation cracking along the lines beside Lorraine's mouth, could smell the coffee on her breath. could see the tiny vein pulsing at her temple. "Listen to me," Lorraine whispered. The whisper was worse than shouting. It was controlled, deliberate, each word pressed out between clenched teeth like something squeezed through a crack. "I do not know who let you on this plane. I do not care whose name is on that booking. People like you do not belong in spaces like this. You never have. You never will. So sit down, shut your mouth, or I will have this plane landed and your black ass dragged out in handcuffs. Do you understand me?" The cabin was silent. The engines hummed. Somewhere behind them, Lila stood frozen in the galley doorway, one hand gripping the curtain, knuckles white. Serena did not blink, did not flinch, did not move back even an inch. "I want your name and employee. ID number," she said. "I will be filing a formal complaint the moment we land." Something snapped in Lorraine. Maybe it was the calmness. Maybe it was the fact that Serena would not bend. Maybe it was the realization that this black woman was looking her in the eye without a single trace of fear, and that enraged her more than anything else. Serena reached past Lorraine to take her bag from the overhead bin. Her arm extended upward, brushing Lorraine's shoulder. Lorraine grabbed Serena's wrist hard. Her fingers dug into the skin, pressing against the bone. Serena pulled her arm free, and then Lorraine hit her. Open palm, full swing across the left side of Serena's face. The sound was sharp and ugly. It bounced off the leather seats and the polished wood panels and hung in the recycled air like a living thing. Serena's head snapped to the right. Her hand shot up to her cheek. She could feel her own heartbeat in her face, throbbing, hot, electric. The skin burned like someone had pressed a clothes iron against it. The cabin was frozen. Lila's mouth hung open. Her eyes were wet. Captain Victor Lang cracked the cockpit door and peered out, face white. Lorraine stood there, breathing hard. Her right hand was still raised. Her chest was heaving. She looked like she had just done something righteous. Several seconds of silence. Then Serena lowered her hand from her cheek. She straightened up. She looked at Lorraine, not with anger, not with tears, not with shock, with something else, something Lorraine had never seen directed at her before. Certainty. "That," Serena said quietly, "was the worst decision of your entire life." Lorraine's chin jutted forward. "What are you going to do? Call your manager?" Serena did not answer. She sat down, smoothed her hoodie, folded her hands. Captain Victor stepped out of the cockpit. His face was flushed. He looked from Serena to Lorraine and back. "What is going on here?" Lorraine spoke first, immediately, before anyone else could open their mouth. "This passenger has been disruptive and aggressive since boarding. She refused a safety inspection and became physically confrontational. I had to defend myself. The lie was so smooth, so practiced, that it sounded like the truth." Victor looked at Serena. Her cheek was red, visibly red. The outline of fingers was starting to form on her skin like a photograph developing in slow motion. "Ma'am," Victor said carefully, "are you all right?" "Your flight attendant just struck me across the face," Serena said. Her voice was steady, almost frighteningly steady. "I want this incident formally logged. I want her full name and badge number." Victor swallowed. He looked at Lorraine. Lorraine stared back at him with the confidence of a woman who had gotten away with things like this before. Victor chose the path of least resistance, the same path the company had always chosen. "Okay, let us everyone just calm down. We will be on the ground soon. We can sort this out at the terminal. Miss Hayes, I would ask you to please remain seated for the rest of the flight." He did not reprimand Lorraine, did not ask Lila what she saw, did not check Serena's face. He just retreated into the cockpit and closed the door. Lorraine smoothed her uniform, adjusted her gold wing pin, and walked back to the galley without a single word. Her heels clicked against the floor, steady, unhurried, the sound of someone who believed she had won. Serena sat alone. The handprint on her cheek was deepening from pink to red. She reached into her hoodie pocket, pulled out her phone. The voice memo app was still running. She opened her text messages, found Cameron Reed's name, typed 6 words. Call the lawyers. Skyvault is done. She pressed send. Then she placed the phone face down on the armrest, leaned her head back against the seat, and stared at the ceiling. Outside the oval window, the clouds rolled past like a slow white river. The sun was fully up now. The sky was the kind of blue that looks almost fake, too bright, too perfect for a morning like this. Inside the cabin, Serena sat with her hands folded in her lap, cheek burning, heart calm. I got to stop here for a sec because she got slapped, and her first move was to send a text. Not cry, not scream, not swing back. A text. That is not patience. That is a whole different level of scary calm. Lorraine has no idea what is coming. The landing gear hit the tarmac in Savannah with a soft double thump. The engines wound down. Morning light poured through every window, warm and golden, like the world outside had no idea what had just happened inside this cabin. Lorraine was already up, straightening her uniform, checking her hair in the reflection of the galley window. She tugged her gold wingpin 0.5 millimeter to the left, making sure it was perfectly centered. She looked like a woman preparing to greet a dignitary, composed, polished, untouchable. Serena stayed in her seat. She had not moved since sending that text. Her laptop was closed. Her hands were still folded in her lap. The handprint on her cheek had darkened into something you could not miss, a reddish-purple shadow with the faint outline of 4 fingers pressed into her skin like a stamp. The jet rolled to a stop. Captain Victor opened the cockpit door and stepped out without looking at anyone. He busied himself with paperwork on the center console, avoiding eye contact the way people do when they know they failed and do not want to be reminded. Lorraine moved to the cabin door. She released the handle and pushed it open. Warm Georgia air rushed in, humid, thick, carrying the smell of jet fuel and fresh-cut grass from the airfield. She looked out at the tarmac and stopped. 2 black SUVs were parked at the base of the stairs. Not airport shuttles, not rental cars. 2 identical black Cadillac Escalades with tinted windows and a logo printed on both front doors in clean silver lettering. Summit Aerospace Holdings. Lorraine stared at the logo. She did not recognize it. Not yet. It was just a name to her, 2 words and a symbol that meant nothing. But then the doors of the first SUV opened. A young black man in a tailored navy suit stepped out. He was holding a leather portfolio in one hand and a phone in the other. Behind him, 2 older men emerged from the second vehicle, both in dark suits, both carrying briefcases. One had silver reading glasses pushed up on his forehead. The other had a legal pad already open. They were not smiling. The young man looked up at the jet stairs and straightened his tie. That was Cameron Reed. Serena appeared at the cabin door. She stepped out slowly, one hand on the railing. The sunlight caught the mark on her cheek, and from a distance, Cameron could see it. His jaw tightened. His hand squeezed the leather portfolio so hard the stitching creased. Miss Hayes. His voice was controlled, but there was something underneath it, a thin wire of fury wrapped in professionalism. The board has been briefed. Legal is ready. Dr. Carver and Mr. Adams are here from outside counsel. He gestured to the 2 men behind him. They nodded. No handshakes, no small talk. This was not a greeting. This was a deployment. Serena walked down the stairs. Each step was slow, measured. She reached the tarmac and stood in the morning sun, the heat pressing against her face where the slap still throbbed. Behind her, Lorraine appeared at the top of the stairs. She had followed Serena out, probably out of habit, probably to give the kind of rehearsed farewell she gave every passenger. Thank you for flying with us. Have a wonderful day. But the words died before they reached her mouth. She looked at Cameron in his suit, at the 2 lawyers with their briefcases, at the SUVs with the logo. All 3 men were looking at Serena, not like a passenger, not like a client, but like a commanding officer who had just returned from the front line. Lorraine's smile flickered. Her hand found the railing and gripped it. Wait, she said. Her voice had changed. The authority was gone. It was thinner now, uncertain. You are Serena Hayes? Serena stopped at the bottom of the stairs. She turned around slowly, looked up at Lorraine standing above her in that pressed navy uniform with those gold wings pinned to her chest. "I am the woman you just slapped," Serena said, "on a jet that I own, operated by a company that I pay, while wearing a uniform that my money bought." Lorraine's face went white. Not pale, white. Like every drop of blood had drained from her head to her feet in 1 second. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Nothing came out. Serena held her gaze for several more seconds. Then she turned and walked toward the SUV. Cameron opened the rear door for her. She climbed in. The door closed with a heavy final thud. Inside the vehicle, the air conditioning was cold and sharp. The leather seat was cool against her back. Cameron sat beside her. The 2 lawyers were in the second row. "How bad?" Cameron asked quietly. Serena pulled down the sun visor, looked at her cheek in the small mirror. The handprint was fully formed now, dark and vivid against her skin. "Bad enough," she said. She flipped the visor back up. Then she pulled out her phone and dialed a number she knew by heart. It rang twice. "Serena?" The voice on the other end was male, older, slightly out of breath, like he had been running. "Serena, I just saw Cameron's message. What happened? Are you okay?" "Richard?" Serena's voice was level. No anger, no trembling, just facts. "Your senior flight attendant on my aircraft racially profiled me. She denied me service. She fabricated a security protocol to search my belongings, and she struck me across the face in front of your crew." Silence on the line. The kind of silence that has weight. "I have the full incident recorded. I have a witness, your junior attendant, who I expect will cooperate. And I have a handprint on my face that your company put there." More silence. She could hear Richard Harlan breathing. "The $200 million contract is terminated, effective now. Your team will receive formal notice within the hour, and the management contract for my aircraft is also done. I want your crew off my jet by the end of the day." She paused. "Let it land. Get ahead of this, Richard, because I promise you, I will." She hung up, placed the phone on her knee, looked straight ahead through the tinted windshield at the bright Savannah sky. Cameron did not speak. The lawyers did not speak. The SUV pulled away from the tarmac in silence. On the jet stairs behind them, Lorraine Baxter stood alone. Her hand was still on the railing. Her knees were shaking. The warm Georgia breeze moved through her hair, loosening the tight bun she had pinned so carefully that morning. She did not move for a long time. Richard Harlan sat in his corner office in Dallas, staring at his phone like it had just bitten him. The call lasted less than a couple of minutes. Serena had not yelled, had not threatened. She stated what happened, stated what would happen next, and hung up. That was worse than yelling. Yelling means someone is still emotional, still reachable. Serena's voice had none of that. It was the voice of someone who had already made every decision and was now just informing you of the results. Richard's hands were trembling when he called an emergency board meeting. Later that evening, 12 people sat around a conference table on the 32nd floor of Skyvault headquarters. The air conditioning hummed, but the room felt airless. No one touched the coffee. No one made eye contact. Richard laid it out. The $200 million defense subcontract with Summit Aerospace, the single largest deal in Skyvault's pipeline, the one they built their entire fiscal year around, was dead. Not suspended, terminated. On top of that, Summit had pulled the management contract for the jet. When a client like Serena Hayes publicly fires you, other clients notice. Other clients start making phone calls. The chief financial officer ran the numbers: total exposure, contract losses, stock decline, reputational damage. Litigation could exceed $300 million because of one slap. Richard called Serena several times that night. She did not pick up once. He sent an email later, 3 desperate paragraphs that read like a ransom note. He offered to fire Lorraine immediately, offered to fly to Savannah personally, offered whatever it takes. Her legal team responded the next morning. One sentence: Miss Hayes' decision is final. All further communication should be directed to outside counsel. Meanwhile, Lorraine Baxter was falling apart. Skyvault suspended her within hours. Security walked her out of the crew lounge at Dulles, with her badge still clipped to her uniform. She carried her belongings in a clear plastic bag, the same kind they give you at a police station. Human Resources pulled her file that afternoon. What they found made the room go silent. 3 prior complaints, all filed by passengers of color over 4 years. One woman reported Lorraine refused to serve her on a transatlantic flight. Another described being called sweetheart in a tone that made her skin crawl. A third wrote a 3-page letter about being humiliated in front of her children. All 3 had been reviewed by the same supervisor, a man since retired. All 3 marked resolved. No action required. All 3 were buried in a folder no one opened until today. 3 chances, 3 warnings, 3 women who told the truth and were ignored. That night, Lorraine got Serena's number from the booking manifest, called. Serena did not answer. Lorraine left a voicemail, several minutes long, started with crying, moved to apologizing, then shifted into something uglier. I did not know who she was. I was just following my instincts. She did not look like. How was I supposed to know? This is not fair to me. Not once did Lorraine say, I was wrong. Her only defense was, I did not know she was important. Which tells you everything. What Lorraine was really saying was, if Serena had been nobody, the slap would have been fine. A couple of days later, Lila Evans made a phone call. She called Serena's legal team, voice shaking, but words clear. I saw everything, from boarding to the moment she was struck. I will provide a full written statement. When asked why she did not intervene on the plane, Lila went quiet for a long time. Because I was afraid. Lorraine has seniority. She has ended careers before. She paused. But I am more afraid of what happens if I stay quiet. 1 week after the slap, the story broke. A journalist at an aviation trade publication received an anonymous tip. Within days, she confirmed every detail. Serena's legal team provided a statement. Lila Evans agreed to be quoted. The FAA confirmed it was aware of the incident. The headline landed like a bomb. Skyvault Aviation loses $200 million contract after flight attendant assaults black CEO on her own private jet. Within hours, every major outlet picked it up. The story spread fast, and then the audio leaked. Serena's legal team released a 45-second clip from the voice memo. That was all it took. Lorraine voice, clear, unmistakable. Playing businesswoman today, probably Googling what a spreadsheet even means. A gap, engine hum, then Lorraine again. Closer now. People like you do not belong in spaces like this. You never have. You never will. Then the slap, sharp, loud, followed by silence. The clip went viral. It spread rapidly. #Justice for Serena trended nationally for several days. Skyvault stock dropped 18% by the end of the week. Several VEP charter clients quietly canceled their contracts within days. Institutional investors started calling. Board members started whispering about exits. Serena released a public statement. 4 sentences. No dramatics. No press conference. I boarded my own aircraft for a routine flight. I was subjected to racial discrimination, verbal abuse, and physical assault by a Skyvault Aviation employee. I have provided all evidence to the appropriate authorities. I evaluate companies not by their products, but by their people. Skyvault failed that test. 4 sentences. More than enough. Now the legal machinery moved. Serena filed criminal assault charges against Lorraine in the jurisdiction where the plane landed. Lorraine was arrested at her apartment in Arlington on a Thursday afternoon. 2 U.S. Marshals knocked on her door. She answered in sweatpants, mascara smudged, hair unwashed. They cuffed her hands in front and walked her to an unmarked sedan. Booked at the detention center, fingerprinted, photographed. The mugshot leaked within hours. It always does. Face swollen from crying, eyes empty. The gold wing pin was gone. She posted bail that night, $50,000. Her sister paid it. But criminal charges were only the beginning. Summit filed a civil lawsuit against Skyvault the following Monday. Racial discrimination, assault by an employee acting within scope of employment, negligent supervision. The key evidence? Those 3 buried complaints, proof the company knew Lorraine was a liability and looked away. The FAA opened a formal investigation into Skyvault's crew training and complaint handling procedures. Inspectors arrived at headquarters with boxes and hard drives. They stayed several days. The criminal trial lasted 4 days. The prosecution played the full recording. The jury heard everything. Every dismissive comment, every whispered slur, every moment Serena chose silence instead of rage. And then, the slap. So loud through the courtroom speakers that 2 jurors flinched. Lila testified for 90 minutes. She described the boarding dispute, the ignored call button, the whispered insults, the fabricated security check, the assault. Calm, specific, unwavering. When the defense asked why she did not stop Lorraine, Lila looked at the jury and said, "The company taught me she was untouchable. 3 complaints, 0 consequences. What was I supposed to believe?" Captain Victor Lang took the stand, confirmed he heard the commotion, saw Serena's red cheek, and chose not to intervene beyond asking both parties to stay calm. When asked why he did not ground Lorraine or file an immediate report, he stared at his hands. "I thought it would be handled on the ground." The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty. All counts. Assault. Violation of federal anti-discrimination statutes in commercial aviation. Lorraine stood motionless as the verdict was read. Did not cry. Did not speak. Just stared at the table like a woman watching her life collapse frame by frame. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. 12 months probation. 200 hours of community service. Mandatory completion of a certified bias and racial sensitivity program. And a permanent notation on her FAA record, banning her from working in commercial aviation for life. She walked out of the courthouse into a wall of cameras, said nothing. Her sister drove her away in a gray minivan with a cracked windshield. The civil case was settled 3 months after that. Skyvault paid Summit $15 million. They also agreed to a court-monitored overhaul of their entire charter division, new hiring protocols, mandatory bias training for all flight crew, an independent review board for discrimination complaints, and quarterly compliance reports filed with the court for 5 years. Then, the final domino fell. Skyvault's board held a closed-door vote. The result was unanimous. Richard Harlan was forced to resign as chief executive officer. His resignation letter leaked the next morning. It always leaks. 2 pages of corporate nothing, transition, new chapter, confident in the company's future. Not one mention of Serena, not one mention of Lorraine, not one word about the slap that burned his empire down. The internet tore it apart within hours. The board appointed an interim chief executive officer the same week. Her name was Nadia Cross. She was the first black woman to lead Skyvault Aviation in the company's 40-year history. Her first official act was a public apology, not the corporate kind written by lawyers in a conference room, a real one. She named Serena. She named what happened. She called it exactly what it was. What happened on that aircraft was racist. It was violent, and it was enabled by a system that chose silence over accountability. That system ends today. So, where are they now? Serena Hayes took the $200 million contract and awarded it to a small aerospace firm based in Atlanta, minority-owned. 12 employees at the time. That contract changed everything. Within 18 months, the firm grew from 12 to over 200 employees. They opened a second facility. They hired engineers, project managers, machinists, many of them young black professionals who had never seen a company that looked like them win at that level. When a reporter asked Serena why she chose them, she said, "They were qualified, they were hungry, and no one was giving them a chance." Sound familiar? Lorraine Baxter never flew again. The FAA notation made sure of that. No airline, no charter company would touch her. She took a retail job in a strip mall outside Richmond. Name tag, folding shirts, 8 hours under fluorescent lights that buzzed like trapped insects. Her name became a case study. 3 major airlines added the Skyvault incident to their crew training programs. New flight attendants now watch a video about what happened on that Gulfstream, about assumptions, bias, and what it costs when you decide someone does not belong. Lorraine is in that video. She will be forever. Lila Evans left Skyvault after the trial. A regional airline in Charlotte hired her after reading about her testimony. Within 2 years, promoted to cabin crew lead. She built an internal advocacy program for junior attendants, a confidential system to flag misconduct without fear of retaliation. She named it Speak Up. 3 other airlines adopted it. Captain Victor Lang retired quietly. No press release, no farewell. He moved to a lake house in North Carolina. People who knew him said he carried the guilt like a stone in his pocket, always there, never spoken about. Richard Harlan vanished from public life. No company hired him. No board invited him. He became the answer to a question no chief executive officer wants to hear. What happens when you ignore the warnings? Skyvault survived, barely. The losses forced them to cut their charter division by 40%. But under Nadia Cross, things shifted. The new policies were not just paper, they were enforced. The independent review board rejected its first cover-up within months. 2 senior managers were fired for retaliating against a junior employee who filed a bias report. 2 years later, Skyvault won back a small contract with Summit. Not the big one, a fraction of what they lost, but it meant Serena was watching. It meant the changes were real. Serena was invited to speak at the National Business Aviation Association conference. 800 people. Standing room only. She walked to the podium in a black dress, no notes. She talked about her mother, a night shift nurse in Southeast D.C., who came home every morning smelling like hospital soap and exhaustion. A woman who never owned a jet or sat in a boardroom, but a woman who taught her daughter one thing: you do not treat people well because of who they might be. You treat people well because of who you are. Then she said the line that would be quoted everywhere, for years. I did not cancel that contract because I was offended. I canceled it because if that is how your people treat someone when they do not know who she is, then I know exactly who your company is. 800 people stood up. This story is fiction, but be honest. You know somebody who has been treated like that. Maybe it is you, and they did not have a $200 million card to pull. Most people just have to swallow it. And that part is not fiction at all. If you were in Serena's seat and you did not have that kind of leverage, what would you have done? Drop it in the comments. If this story made you feel something, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story where justice gets the last word. Because here is what I want you to take with you. Power does not always look the way people expect. It does not always wear a suit. It does not always announce itself. Sometimes power looks like a tired woman in a gray hoodie sitting quietly in a seat that belongs to her, waiting for the world to catch up. Remember that.